Welcome to the Blaize interviews. My name is Blaize, and today we have
Danny Archila.
All right, Dan. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thanks,
so,
Blaize.
the first question I always like to ask people is,
Sure.
how did you get into comedy?
I think I got into comedy because it was a bet. It was a bit of a dare. You know, I was hanging out in Orlando at this spot right across from Full Sail University. Shout out to the Geek Easy, located inside a comic shop. I think those are both literal names, but definitely the Geek Easy was where I first did stand-up. It was 2014.
Okay.
I was hanging out with my buddies, and one of them asked me, "Hey, you should go up on stage. You should do stand-up." We were just hanging out at this bar, and I had no idea how to do comedy, but I was like, okay. So I did my set, and it was terrible, of course. But you know, it happens, and
even now, it still happens.
yeah, oh yeah, I'm still having terrible sets to this day. You know, I've kept a very consistent streak of that. But no, I did that, and then I got a bit of the bug to do more of it when I moved out to California the following year. So
Okay, and this was when you were in college?
yeah, I was at Valencia Community College over there in Orlando, Florida, and when I was there, yeah, I was just taking like generic theater, film degrees, shit, but I wasn't getting anything done. So I fell for a scam that said, "Oh, we'll get you a job in the film industry like that for $100,000." And
Wait,
I'm
what?
like, that sounds great. So I hung out with my family over there in LA. They said, we don't know about this, but we'll still help you move out here. And that's where I am. And because stand-up is just so instantaneously gratifying, I thought, well, I should just go ahead and start doing a weekly go at this. So I went to the Thursday open mic at the now extinct Red Balls Rock and Roll Pizzeria.
Where's that
over
at?
in Moore Park, California.
Okay.
This guy, GM Ford, pretty much the first dude I've met in stand-up, and I'm hoping to meet up with him sometime again in the future, but that was like about 9 years ago. Genuine, kind guy, brought me up on the stage at an open mic, and basically just the home of where I really found out how freaking hard this would be. But it's enjoyable, of course. And
Do you remember your first set? Do you remember what you were talking about or what happened?
I remember the jokes. I definitely remember the jokes. I remember I would talk about like, oh, you know, I just flew in here from Florida, and you know, I'm next to a guy that's a veteran or whatever. But the joke is that you can't tell veterans because they're usually air marshals. So the way I was able to tell is because he was a dead veteran, asleep under a casket and an American flag for a pillow. So
Were you, what the fuck?
yeah, it was controversial. I got called out on it a couple times. So.
I can see why.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm
Just
kinda
not.
messed up.
Oh, no worries, no worries.
Lucy. But it's not, I'll go. So your first joke was about a dead guy,
Yeah, like dead air marshal basically. It's nothing.
Okay, that's
super deep.
interesting. And you still don't do it today?
I don't do it anymore, but I used to like have a lot of hope in it because you know you have those comics where you want to sound like them. Like I used to be a really big fan of Jesselnick to the point where I was like, okay, I thought this friendly face could go ahead and sound like one of the darkest voices in stand-up, but certainly not. And that's
Jesselnick does have that darkness, but I think the closest person I'd say is Jesselnick now would probably be Jimmy Drexler.
yeah. Drexler's got that whole vibe about him.
I do love him. He's great.
He keeps it consistent. Good for him.
He's like the complete opposite of me when I perform because I'm so loud and all over the place. Where he's just like solid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's got a certain meter to what he says. You know, people respond well to that, so that's good. That's really good.
Have
for
you
him.
taken any comedy classes?
I took one. I took one stand-up class. Well, I lied. I took one stand-up class in college, and then I took a couple of courses at the Groundlings.
Do you like the Groundlings?
I liked the Groundlings, but I didn't like them that much because they didn't accept me into their, you know,
Cults?
bigger troupe, their bigger class schedule. I took intro twice, so yeah.
I hear that. I hear like a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, you're gonna fail all the time. Like you're gonna have to retake classes all the time." I was like, that doesn't sound like it's a good program if you have to retake.
I don't know. I can only shell so many $200 before I want to go and use that for something more useful, like
Right.
5 and below, you know. That's more my deal. But yeah, I took a stand-up class by this guy, Jonathan Solomon, I think his name was.
Sounds familiar.
He actually used to write for Jay Leno. So yeah, his whole deal was just oh, you've got to stick to the cognitive dissonance. If it doesn't make sense here, imagine what else would make sense if this is the most nonsensical shit. And I'm like, okay, well, that's totally not confusing. But I ended up about 6 weeks later with a show, one of my early shows, just a spot at the Improv at the lab. Those stand-up classes, they always give off like, oh, we'll have you do a spot at the Belly Room or at the Factory or at the Improv. So I did one in the lab. Ran my time by like 4 minutes, but
that's a lot, bro.
Yeah, I still did it. I still did 12 minutes up there.
12 minutes.
It was crazy.
So they gave you 8 minutes?
Yeah, I think so. It was 8 minutes per comic, but I just overran my time like a motherfucker. And
why? You just nervous, or?
I think it was part nerves and also part, and I'm still dealing with this today, just kind of not wanting people to push me around that much anymore, even if they're show producers, show hosts, what have you. I think my mentality was, well, I'm not sure if I'm ever going to get back up on the stage again, so let me go ahead and milk it for all it's worth. I'd like to say that's sinister thoughts going on in my mind that do come into
So you purposely
reality.
try to run the light?
Not all the time, but just that time I did, yeah.
You were just like, fuck it, I'm doing it.
I thought so. And I've done a couple of their mics when they would have them on Tuesdays, but honestly, the last time I performed there was maybe a year ago, so that's kind of my goal, to go in and get another spot there.
I feel that.
So.
I mean, the Tuesday mics are always so hard because it's a bucket mic and you're just sitting there. At least it's better than like a Bacchus mic, because a Bacchus mic, no one knows what the fuck's going on.
Sure.
Versus at the Improv, they kind of know what they're doing.
You hardly have any idea when you're going to get up at Baca. And I will say he does pack the room out, whether it's full of performers or not. That's yet to be determined, but he makes a big deal out of it. People know about it, and that's good marketing on his part. I was at a Spanish stand-up show. I did my buddy Pablo Carpintero. He and Patty for Comedy. They run this corner of Pasadena, the Mix.
Oh yeah, I know what it is.
It's something of a lounge, something of a bar.
They have burlesque shows there too.
Yeah, that's what I've seen. They have a lot of different variety of shows. So I was there for a stand-up Spanish comedy show, which I was told was clean, but most comedians were saying, chupa mi pinga, y perra, y maricon, or whatever.
So you were doing comedy in Spanish?
I was doing stand-up Spanish, yeah. I did
cool.
I did a 10-minute set, and I had a Baca show later that night, and it already had been raining earlier, so I was just like, oh, crap, I don't know if I'm going to make it. My buddy Cesar Lazardo, he was like, yeah, you know what, it's a Baca show, so, it's going to be okay,
Yeah,
it's going to be all right.
You'll be fine, don't worry.
It's not a big deal. He always is really good at reassuring, so I said, all right, screw it. Drove all the way from there to Hollywood, and yeah, I was able to make it on within maybe 10 minutes of me having arrived. And I'm sure if I had arrived earlier at the start time of, 8 o'clock, instead of just, going until like maybe barely it ends, I would have waited a lot longer. But because the Spanish stand-up show had already started a little late anyway.
Of course.
And, my spot was much later. I had to wait until my spot and then wait until a couple comics and then be like, all right, I'm peacing out.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. So, I don't know. I think time, it's a weird mistress. We don't know exactly how to make love to it or how it'll fuck us first. So
that's true. I mean, there's so many different types. Is there any mics that you don't like going to? Like, one place that I would never performing until the owner sells it is Chateau.
The Comedy Chateau? Yeah, I can see why it's not enjoyable to perform there. I think for me personally, I just don't like the bringers, but I've heard accounts of like harassment, of name calling, of bad money practice. So I try not to go there often. But besides that, I can't say. I'll tell you, I can only say good things about practically every place I go to, because contrary to belief, I'm trying my hardest not to shit talk as much as I used to. I think I've developed a bit of a reputation.
Well, there's a difference between the shit talking and expressing your feelings.
I agree. It's just, most impact over intent. So if I have an intent of expressing my feelings, well, then my feelings sound very bitchy, because most comics are just going to be like, oh, he's complaining about so-and-so, or oh, what's his deal, and spreading, and then it gets me.
I don't care. I'll talk about clubs all the time.
I'm sure.
Because we should. Because as comics, we should talk about the clubs, because that's where, that's our playground. That's where we work.
I agree. Well, I think just in this case, I'd be expressing my feelings, but I wouldn't want to be making a negative response about it.
Which places do you like to go to?
Well, I like going to all places, but I will say one place I did not like for the longest time until I went there and felt invigorated, even though if I didn't have a good set, was Liquid Zoo. I went to Liquid Zoo.
The fucking cage.
When I would do shows back when, rest in peace, GT Topalan, when he and Wild Joe together would produce, the dive bar comedy shows, right? And one of my first spots there was actually at Liquid Zoo. They go all around LA, but they would do Liquid Zoo sometimes. They would do the Witch's Brew, I think.
Witch's Brew. I think is that still around the Witch's Brew? I feel like it is.
It's not closed. I don't think it's closed. It's definitely around, but it's that's not Mike. It's just a show. I'm saying. So this traveling show chose Liquid Zoo to do one time, and I remember having such a terrible set that I was just embarrassed to walk back to my dad because my dad was right there in the crowd. He had been visiting, and he's to this day a little shaky about the idea of me doing stand-up, as is most parents, I'm sure. But he was there to support me nonetheless. Very good.
What were you joking about that night?
I don't know. I think I brought up the whole
pilot again,
Colombian thing about how I'm Colombian, but I kind of look like I'm from Columbine. That whole crap. So I was there, and when I get off stage, I'm talking with my dad, and then Tommy Morris, I hope I'm saying that name correctly. He might be a bit before my time, but he was actually one of the old bookers for the Comedy Store. So he was very tight with Mitzi Shore and everything. I think he came in before Adam Egget did, and now Adam's at the mothership. But back then, he walked up to me, because I think he was also on the lineup as well. I don't know if he was a comedian or just there to support GT and Wild Joe, but nonetheless, he walked up to me and he talked to my dad, and he was saying to me and him, this guy's really funny. He's really funny. He's gonna go somewhere.
That's cool.
And I don't know if he was just saying that to encourage me or to discourage my dad from pulling the plug and kidnapping me back to Orlando. But
how would that have gone if he tried to kidnap you?
I probably would have keeled over and taken it. I'm not a big fighter, believe it or not. I have a lot of bite, but not a lot of.
You're like a little chihuahua?
Not a lot of bark, but I have a lot of bark, but not a lot of bite. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm a little chihuahua, maybe a West Highland Terrier. I like those dogs better, but all the same. Liquid Zoo. I didn't enjoy it because I'm not used to the dive bar scene. But then years went on, and I would go to support Ryan Talmo and all my other friends that go there on Sundays, and it was fun. It was really enjoyable. I got booked for a couple of shows. I got booked for one. Let it be known, I only got booked for one, but it was a nice little hybrid.
Ryan, booking more.
Hybrid karaoke comedy show.
Okay.
And it was really cool. Danny Gill ran that. We're name dropping a lot. I hope that's okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think for me, personally speaking, the Liquid Zoo was just tough for me to handle because I have enough of a difficulty of public speaking already. But when it's half a room that's not paying attention, as is most dive bars, you kind of either have to ignore them and just go through the jokes, or you have to make a bigger effort of being more interesting. Yeah. So that's still something I grapple with.
That's the hard part with doing those mics or even those shows, because that you have to already fight the crowd. Yeah. So that's the thing is there's so many times even the crowd would be louder than you.
It's the classic thing of a small room with strange acoustics and trillions of TVs just up everywhere. I'm not saying that per bar. I'm saying that in general, I think in America there's around 1 trillion TVs in every single dive bar from East Coast to West Coast. So there were quite a couple there, and I would imagine though they muted, still their attention, the audience's attention is divided from the stage, their phone, whoever their spouse is, and of course the television screen. Mm-hmm. So it's I
always hate it when you're at the bar and they leave the TV on behind you.
The buzz of it all.
Not even even if it's muted. Because it's just all the lights, and people are gonna get distracted by the lights. Yeah. And kind of just that's what I always feel about it. So when you come up with your jokes, how does a joke form for you?
Well, I think it forms from me taking it apart and realizing what I can, pick of it, make funny. So I suppose in this case, it comes from something that's unique to me. Maybe it's not unique in the sense that, I'm the only one that has it, but it's understandable yet relatable enough given how much context I give to where if people like it, well, they will laugh.
Yeah.
You know, so one area I would say of myself that I've continued to try to tell people this is who I am on stage because I like writing about it is my narcolepsy. I don't even know if it's for sure, but according to the sleep test, I have a very acute form of sleep apnea, and that results in something that looks a little bit like narcolepsy, which is when you fall asleep very easily. And I don't know if that's because of stand-up. I don't know if it's because I don't receive enough vitamin D or I've got a lack in potassium, but either way, there's a certain hour of the day.
Did you not have that before you came out here to LA? Like, growing up, you didn't have... you didn't fall asleep like that?
That's a tough question because I feel like I fall asleep easily when I'm seated watching a movie, but otherwise I do have almost limitless energy. You know, it just so happens that I use narcolepsy as a scapegoat because I've been in accidents before when I fell asleep on the road, and because I would just have a really hard time waking up as I grew older and older. So I guess in regards to what you're asking is how I write the joke is I take that and then I think about, okay, well, what are some things I can pull apart from it? I can pull apart the fact that some people enjoy using the bed, but using the bed for what? Okay, they use it to have sex. I don't particularly have sex very often, so instead I might want to lay down. That's my idea of getting into the mood. Okay, laying down. There's another phrase. What was it? Look it up on idioms.com. Lay pipe. Okay, so, all right, some guys like to lay pipe. I'm not one of those guys. I actually prefer laying down, and then you shorten and shorten, and you cut out the fat until it's easy to say in a conversational tone. And I just build off from there, and I guess sometimes it would be puns, such as, he's a slumber sexual, or
that's funny.
using snoring as my pronouns. And then other times, I think it still works, especially for basketball fans. But I could go in and say, I'm part of the ZZZ, because everybody that has a certain thing that's unique or sometimes wrong with them, so they need to have representation. So, like the disabled, for instance, they have their own organization, I'm sure. But even for people that are just of different ethnicities, the NAACP. Whatever it is for Latinos. I guess there's that Italian one that got started all because of the Godfather and all that. So stuff like that. I figured, okay, my little group. It's not the NAACP. It's not the LGBT. It's the ZZZ. Because it's like a snoring thing, and then just try to I guess introduce familiar elements in there. Even
okay. And did you those classes that you took? Do you still use any advice or something that from those classes that you feel like you still incorporate today that was actually useful?
I think up until this point, I've used the lessons sparingly, and it's only because I don't feel as if I know exactly how to just base all my joke writing onto one factoid, such as cognitive dissonance. So I feel like maybe, if anything, I have to do one or the other, which is totally ditch the idea of using it or involve myself more into using the lessons that I've been learned. So that way, it becomes a bit more of a rubric I can follow, and then I have a better flow. So I think really the answer I'm trying to give is I'm in a state of crisis.
It's like, what the fuck am I doing?
Exactly.
What the fuck is cognitive dissonance?
A dissonance. It's just to say, it's hard for me to explain. Honestly, I might. It might be best for you to just look that one up. But Jonathan Solomon, he's the creator of that certain mentality. So if anybody has any right to speak about it. What does it mean to you then? Like, what does it mean to me? It means to me that what his words taught me about that was that it means, crazy shit happens, but not all the time. But this crazy thing happened. So if that's true, what else is valid from that crazy thing? So it's just.
Well, it's kind of like what you just said.
Dots. Yeah.
Like how you're like, people have the representations, and you're the ZZZ.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm really that impoverished by what seems to be just a lack of sleep and nothing more, it honestly could be such a pseudoscience. Well, then, in my mania, would I be that type of guy that goes in and says, I'm part of an organization, and yeah, I have a weighted blanket as my a flag, and oh, we have Giannis Antetokounmpo as our chairman, and before him, it was the best in the game, Bill Cosby, because who doesn't get to sleep around Bill Cosby, so
you fuck.
that sort of thing. So I mean, I guess when you break it down like that, I don't have to feel so bad. Perhaps I do use it quite a bit, but again, I have to stress this: it's his lesson, and if you guys are interested, you just look up Jonathan Solomon on the internets, and you can take one of his classes. It's only like $90, so.
So when you were in Florida in college, you were taking like music, or not music, but
acting.
Like acting. Oh, so you're trying to be an actor?
I was just trying to get into theater because I had to get into that first before getting into the film degree. It was very strange. I had to take a year of theater as far as understanding how to work with actors, but also work with set pieces and whatnot. And before I got into using the cameras, and I never really got into using the cameras because I think, one, I missed out on my history credit. I was supposed to take a film history class. I didn't. And two, by the time I was fixing to, I had found out that the man in charge of the Valencia film department had died. So it was kind of a strange occurrence of things to where it made me feel like I got to get out of Florida. I got to get out of Orlando.
So you just felt like you just needed to get away from Florida.
Yeah, I mean, also I was 19 going on 20 at the time, and I just, generally speaking, didn't want to feel like I couldn't grow, because it's hard to feel like you can grow when you're around your family and all that. They're nice, they're wonderful, and they're very supportive, but if they don't neglect you, well, then the opposite is almost as bad. Not as bad, but almost as bad, which is they baby you and they make you feel comfortable to the where you might not feel enough ambition to do anything if your environment is saying, hey, you're the best in the world, and that's it. You don't have to be any better, But I love them still, and I visit Florida rather frequently, I think. So
nice. Just frequent enough for you. So you were trying to get into the film industry. So you always wanted to be like in the entertainment industry, but you wanted to be like in the back.
Yeah, I think I was really interested in screenwriting. That's where I took the most joy, because to like see my ideas written down, by dialogue, by action, by scene, even the transitions I used to get very creative with, and see others read it aloud or give me their notes about it. It was something exhilarating for me.
Do you have a story that you ever written that you always think about, like trying to make it made?
Yeah, I do. I think about this one instance where I wrote a story about this kid who's like obsessed with hummus. He's very obsessed with hummus, but it's not for good reason. It's because the woman of his dreams pretty much like walked out on him right when they were about to have their first and most impactful moment of connection, because of a very disastrous thing happening at a Christmas party. And the weird thing about this woman was that, she was somebody of like a family friend, and, he didn't know anything about romance or whatever, but spending time with her and flirting with her and whatnot, he kind of gets to find out, oh, is this going to be it? Is this going to be my first time? And all for naught, because it, of course, just turns into a lot of magical thinking, really.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. That sounds it kind of sounds like a musical.
It's not. It's definitely not. It's something along the lines, I would say, best bet, like Perks of a Wallflower or something.
Perks of a Wallflower, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so what would you want to be, like a film writer or something like that?
Screenwriter, yeah. Yeah, I've written scripts before. In recent years, I've been working with my friend Travis Van Ryn on TV scripts and sort of episodics like that. But writing an actual movie, that's something that I'm starting to realize I'm going to get back into very soon, because I think I just miss the independence of my idea belonging to just me, and therefore I'm genuinely my most worst critic. So because of that, I will feel the need to go ahead and edit it harder or add to it harder, well, than if I was just alone with somebody else who whose critique I may respect, but I won't entirely like. At least I can like or agree with
yourself.
How crappy I speak of myself. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say this: I took a writing class, a film writing class, or we had to write a play, nice. And I remember this one guy I just didn't like. When he spoke, I could just my eye was just unlike it was just twitching. I was just like, just don't like what you say.
Really?
Yeah, because he just wasn't. His ideas weren't good. He just wasn't like that funny or good. Sure. So it's just kind of one of those things. It's like. It's just bad. Everything you're saying is bad.
Well, there's an audience for everyone.
Yeah,
and
true.
If you don't like his ideas, not that he was ever going to produce the stage work, but if he had, you're not obligated to see it just because you know the guy.
Yeah.
I wonder about that with stand-up as well because I only heard a clip of it, but Joey Coco Diaz himself, he would say that there's a lot of different flavors of stand-up out there. There's a lot of different types of comedians. There's clean comics, there's dirty comics, there's Latin comics, black comics.
There's Muppet comics.
There is Muppet comics, yeah, Randy Feltface. There's prop comics, there's Vegas comics, New York comics, LA comics, Austin comics, Chicago comics, European comics, comics from very different countries. But you don't have to see any of these comics if you don't enjoy them.
Yes.
Like, there are people that really enjoy trans comics, but they don't enjoy, somebody like Shane Gillis. Okay, well, you don't have to see a show. You don't even have to comment on it. Mm-hmm. And then vice versa. If there's these, white sort of incel type of groups that are all interested in shitting on Hannah Gadsby, well, guess what, dude? Her content's not made for you. Her content's made for people who either like to laugh or just like her. Mm. And if you can't let your ignorance or hatred step out of the way, well then it's not meant for you. You don't have to critique it, and you don't have to watch it
or listen or anything. You
don't even have to attend. But people make such big throws about this that they go out of the way to, like this happened to Louis J. Gomez, right? The other week, him and Kurt Metzger, apparently like some comedy club. I don't know if it was in Seattle or where. I'm going to be speaking.
This is my first time.
But they had a couple of shows canceled by the club because there was an outpouring of response, given that, as the Legion of Skanks type of universe, their stuff and the people that would accompany them, the other comics, pretty dirty. Well, okay, they're pretty dirty, but they're funny.
Yeah, it's
whatever.
A dirty show.
There's an audience for everybody. So you're not only denying them the opportunity to perform at that town, at that club, at that opportune timing, but you're also denying the audiences who may not be able to travel all outside the city limits, to where they might not ever get a chance to see them again because maybe they'll ruin the comics mood about it, and then all of a sudden, I don't know if I like performing in Seattle or whatever. And I'm not saying it's Seattle. I'm just saying if it was that.
In what club? In a club.
In a club. So the club denied them that, and I was just thinking about that, and it's so sad that people don't understand that stand-up is a form of expression, of entertainment, but it's not meant to be taken seriously, really seriously.
It's like they got upset over a strip club.
Yeah.
It's like, stop you bitching, bitches.
If there's an audience for it, let them come.
Yes. And there's so many different types of comments, but what I always say is especially here in LA, there's so many different places and so many different types of clubs and rooms.
Yeah.
That but you have to play to the room, because I always say doing shows in West Hollywood is so much different than doing shows in Orange County.
I agree.
Yeah, because like you said, the trans jokes may work good in Orange County, and they may be flopping in West Hollywood. So when you travel, because you've been to New York, you've been to Florida, and you've done comedy all over the place. What do you feel like is the difference between LA as a whole versus other comedy scenes?
Well, my perspective is that LA's sort of brand of comedy is combined with that everybody here that does comedy is always doing something else as well. I love stand-up, but I got into entertainment because of screenwriting, and I got into screenwriting because I wanted to write cartoons, and I got into cartoons because I would draw a lot, and that's still in the back of my mind. But to your question, I'd say LA's scene, while very vast and exciting and a literal melting pot of different cultures and different mentalities and schools of thought, everybody out here that does stand up wouldn't necessarily be upset if they also got an acting gig out of it or a writing gig or something, you know, because you have to, in this town, those opportunities are so likely to come across. You'd be an idiot not to want to take a stab at it, no matter how, you know, professional the production or indie it is. You know, I've been trying to make a point of, in addition to stand up, I'm trying to get back into sketch, you know.
Yes.
I have friends out there, like my friend Andre Mulligan, you know, who put me in a couple of his sketches, and they were really funny and really enjoyable.
Well, a lot of people are doing like the YouTube and Instagram sketches and the reels and all that.
Yeah, exactly, and that's totally changed the climate as well. So it's almost as if like there's really more than one way to get into stand-up, but stand-up isn't the only way to get into other professions in the entertainment industry. Yeah. So I'd say that compared to New York, which I think earnestly they're a lot more black and white about it. Either they're into stand-up or they're not. But, you know, for all intents and purposes, the stand-ups there are very good. Yeah. Even at the mics, even at the open mics I would go to or the clean shows, just top-notch. Very funny and very polite people.
What do you think is the difference between, like, New York and LA comics, then? Is it just the mentality? Is it the type of mics? Is it
I heard this from a different show, and I thought it was very wise, so this is the best way I could sum it up. People in LA are the type of people that they will be nice, but they won't be kind. So, you know, if you had your wheel blow out on the side of the road, and somebody from LA comes by, will go in and say, "Oh my goodness! Oh, that's so bad! Oh, darn it! That sucks. I wish I could help you, but I got a meeting with my agent. But call me later, okay? Yeah, go ahead. All right, bye." And then people in New York, again, this is not my quote. This is just something from that I agree with from another show. They're the type of people that will go, what the hell happened, you freaking idiot? Oh, Jesus, shitting Christ. Well, let me see that tool, you nerd. I'll go ahead and pull this wheel back from you in no time, you freaking asshole. Like that sort of thing, you know? So I feel as if it's pretty relevant. But I like LA. I actually love LA. I enjoy New York, but I wouldn't live in New York.
Why? Because the cold?
It's just really pricey.
Well, so is LA. I mean, LA's expensive.
I'm getting by as fine as I can in this town. Honestly, I'm surprised I'm not on the streets already as an unhoused person, but I'm pretty okay with my budget here in LA.
I mean, we had to come and clean your house, your room.
Okay.
That was a fun time.
I've been going through a bit of like a mental upheaval.
I had to go bring my vacuum cleaner to this man's house. I think did I have them go? Someone picked up my vacuum cleaner and came back.
What happened was that because I'm so busy just doing stand up every night, or if I'm not doing that and I'm hanging out with Travis and working on stuff, at least these days. That was back in November, December. So similar stuff.
Is it still clean? I hope so.
Yeah, well, it's getting clean. The whole thing of it is that if you're so busy in your life that you can't make time to clean your room, then you ought to make time to clean your room. And I think that's actually, you brought it up. I'm going to go ahead and do it. This is an exclusive for your show. This Saturday, whatever day this is, this Saturday, my room will be clean. I don't know which day this is going to release. I don't know which day you're going to watch this in relation to.
Next week, after the following week.
Yeah, I don't care if it's 2024 or 4032 or whatever. Like, that's...
He's going to clean it this Saturday.
I'm going to clean it this Saturday. Whatever this Saturday is, you can expect it to be clean. But, you know, it's just a matter of, I guess, prioritizing, which I have struggles with. I have struggles prioritizing what I need to do. So because I'm so obsessed with doing comedy and so obsessed with putting myself in as many rooms as possible, I very rarely come home and actually sleep in my own bed, and therefore like things get messy after a while.
Where do you sleep?
Sometimes I sleep in my car, just like in the parking lot.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm just so tired from how late I may have been up sometimes, and I'm not trying to pull your leg here, Blaize. This has actually happened a couple times where I would just get home, park right outside my house, and just fall asleep because it'd be too cold to walk outside. The Mediterranean
you fucking little
weather.
Florida boy.
Yeah.
It's like, it's too cold. It's cold, but it's not.
9 years I've been here. I'm still not used to the cold at night, but I'll sometimes fall asleep in my car because, one, that's what I've been instructed to do in case I ever do feel sleepy on the road, and two, I don't know, It makes me a reminder that I am putting in the work.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it wouldn't feel so uncomfortable.
Mm.
I think if you're growing, it has to feel uncomfortable.
Mm.
I feel comfortable talking to you. I feel uncomfortable doing this because I don't know what else to say except for the truth. So if I if I sound pretty lame, then that's what it is. But yeah, my room was really messy, and I appreciate you bringing that back.
No, I mean, with you, it's always been funny watching you, because when I met you, I didn't know you, but the first time I met you was at a Baka show, and when you passed the fuck out, and that's when I found out you had like the narcolepsy shit, and I was like, you went up, and then like right after, within like. I went up like either I was right after the comic. There was a comic before me, and then I went. Yeah. And I just remember seeing you just fucking dead, just like rolled over.
It's weird.
And I was literally like, do we need to call a hospital or something? Is he okay? No. Like, no, he's fine. He does this all the time. I was like, what the fuck? That's just because that happens. Like, do you feel yourself falling asleep, right? You don't just fall asleep.
I'm the first to deny it. If you ask me if I'm falling asleep as if we're watching a movie, I was actually watching a movie this past weekend with a good friend of mine. She and I were going over to watch Poor Things, and she turns around to me, and she sees me kind of like...
slumping.
Yeah, and she's like, oh, you're falling asleep. And the moment somebody says that, that's my trigger warning to, hey, perk up and say something, otherwise they're going to be right. So I do. I shake out of my... almost sleep paralysis and say, no, I'm not. And
then he fell asleep 5 minutes later.
Well, sometimes it happens. Sometimes it does happen. I can't always control it. But to be frank, I don't know if I'll ever have the security in myself to just agree with somebody when they say that. That's probably why I didn't get too far in Groundlings, because I won't yes and. I'm not falling asleep. I'm up. I'm awake. You just
got the petty in you.
Yeah.
So you like to do what people... Well, you like to do what people say you can't do, or you like to do the opposite. You like to be combative.
I think I definitely do get invigorated.
Makes your dick tingle.
I get pretty tingly in the dicky. I find myself often wanting to prove people wrong whenever they say something negative or they say I don't do something enough, because, quite frankly, I am not only a petty person, I'm also very insane. I don't enjoy when people tell me what I am when I know what I am. And it's taken me a while to understand that it's just their feelings they're expressing. That's not exactly verbatim law, but because I have such insecurity in myself as a human being, I always just want to go ahead and prove them wrong, because if not, then I'm going to prove them right, so I don't want that happening. And that's why I have to stir myself awake whenever somebody says you're falling asleep or what have you.
So who is Danny then? Who would you say you are?
Your guess is good as mine.
Bitch, you said if I say what you are, you're gonna be like, nah, I ain't that. Fuck that. I'm gonna be everything but that. I'm gonna be like, he's kind, he's funny, he's a good person. He's like, nah, I'm gonna be a hateful person, spiteful.
Well, I mean, it's not even being hateful, because the thing is that I'm somebody that just wants to be better, and is so tired of not being better.
That's so vague though. Like, what are things that you try to do better?
Well, for one, I'm trying to be more accountable as a producer, because now I'm producing more shows. Oh, right, actually.
Yes, because you're doing the TiT.
Yeah, I'm doing.
Well, yeah, you got something to show, yeah.
I got materials. Yeah. I'm running a magazine.
What?
A magazine. This isn't the magazine. This is a flyer for a related show, but this is the show I'm trying to produce as part of the magazine, as part of the satire website. And I usually don't print out flyers this early, but last Monday, it's in a couple of weeks, so I'm trying to throw a monthly show there and build the hype.
And it's at the Acceidental Chaos, right?
It's at Acceidental Chaos. It's this last Monday, and it will be every last Monday for perpetuity. But
nice.
It's an example like that where I have to do more of the businessman side of things when it comes to being a comic,
So, like, what are some of the business things?
Creating an Eventbrite, booking comics, figuring out whether or not you're going to pay them, as you should. That reminds me, I ought to pay comics from the last time I did this show. It's been good. Deciding who's going to go up when, deciding if you're going to host, deciding if you're not going to host, figuring out the venue, coordinating times with the venue, perhaps payment, bringing equipment, and of course parking, which is something.
That's the biggest thing. I will not go. I'll say this. I want to go to third world more often, but I don't go as often as I like because of the parking.
The parking and the barking are two different things, of course, but the parking definitely is a little difficult. And I think it's one of those things. I think all through LA, not just in third wheel, where you kind of have to be willing to invest time to get there early and to find good spaces, because it's a packed city. It's not as dense as New York, but still there's a good
the difference
couple
is
hundred people.
New York was built before the invention of the cars.
Right.
I mean, the funny part is like they have the staircases. The first floor is never the first floor in New York because of all the horse shit.
Right.
Like there would be horse shit all along the way, and so people would use the steps to clean their feet first. So that's why in New York they're all up a little bit. New York's a weird city, man. I've only been once. It freaks me out that they just leave their fucking trash on the side of the street.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that can be helped. I think maybe they just are outstaffed, or understaffed rather. Understaffed as far as a cleaning service, perhaps.
But they also don't have, like, alleys. You know what I mean? Like, you know how, like, here you have, like, back... Like, let's take, like, NoHo, for example. Like, all the restaurants back there, they have that one back alley, so that way they put the trash and shit.
I love alleys in this town. Yeah.
But that's the thing about, like, it's so hard. It's easy to get places, but it's hard to get there because of all the traffic and all the fucking just parking.
Yeah, you're better off walking or taking the subway. I really like the metro system over there.
Here?
A lot better
there?
than... in New York, yeah. A lot better than LA's. LA's is fine, but they're just now building a subway to connect the rest of the city to LAX, like just now.
Oh, yeah, that's just getting started.
It should have happened years ago, honestly.
It should have, but...
I'm happy for it. So all I'm saying with regards to that is that, LA's definitely one of those towns where you have to have a car, or if not, you have to have an idea of how you're going to get there without a car, and handle all the other stuff.
Some people make
Ubering
it happen.
Or busing. Yeah, I know people that do that. I used to be on bicycle for about 4 years before I got my car back, and it really limited my range, I think, as far as comedy places to hit, but I still try to go to as often very different locations from each other at a time.
Yeah.
I tried.
What are your favorite ones to go? Like, what are your favorite places to work out material? Like Accidental Chaos?
Well, yeah, I go to Acceidental Chaos a lot. It's harder to work out material there because it's more of a buddy type of vibe. So it's often maybe even suggested to do more crowd work.
I call Accidental Chaos the frat house of comedy.
That's a good way of talking about it.
You know what I mean? It's not that it's a bad thing. It's just like when you're there, people are going to be doing coke. There's going to be
Well, yeah.
There's going to be alcohol flowing everywhere.
In recent months, being that this is being recorded in March 2024, they've been trying to get rid of that. I went there just the other night to do a show called Nymphos Chaos. And
Nymphos.
It wasn't as chaotic. Weird to say. It wasn't as disproportionate as it may have been in the past. There's a lot less drugs. Actually, no drugs from what I saw. And there were just a lot of people paying attention, enjoying the show, clapping, laughing, the whole thing. So, I don't know. I always kind of defended to a degree, but favorite places to work out, I got to be more specific about that. I would say, man, I loved going over to this one spot over there in Santa Monica. It was called the Arsenal. They don't have the mic there anymore, but that was like one of the first mics I used to go to consistently once I moved from Moore Park to Los Angeles, and Cesar Lizardo would run it. So that was fun.
Okay.
A lot of these mics that I'm going to talk about, they're not mics that exist anymore, but the Hollywood Hotel, they used to have like an underground area. Me and Travis would run the 3-hour comedy hour there every Saturday for a while. That was fun. And I got to think of actual spot. Well,
like Fourth Wall.
Fourth Wall's nice. I think I prefer the Fourth Wall Cafe versus the Fourth Wall over there on NoHo, but I still would go to Fourth Wall NoHo oftentimes in the past just because it's nearby my job and everything, so it's a good place to...
Where do you work now?
I work for a trucking company. I just do like sponsored content and writing, so...
Sponsored content? So you write their PR and stuff?
Yeah, it's just articles. I just go ahead and see an article that needs content, and I go ahead and talk about, all right, truck insurance or car shipping, what have you. You know.
So that's where you got the idea for the.
Or I lied. I should be more truthful about it. My other writer does that as recently as ever since I've been hired. I've just been in charge of doing jokes about the local news. So if it's Baltimore, and do news about Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a blog, sure. And if it's a blog, then I would just do a blog about, the latest Porsche Taycan GTE electric vehicle from 2024, or the Tesla Cybertruck is not as strong as you think it is, or shit like that,
Okay, so is that where you got that idea for your show? Because I didn't get a chance to do
the show. Came after the magazine, but the magazine came before my day job. So I actually did this as a response to just wanting to have my own thing,
So magazine.
The magazine, because I think I'm a little more easygoing about it nowadays. I'm currently involved with Brian TV about this podcast we do about Colombians, and I'm working on a couple of podcast projects with Travis right now, but
that's cool.
Before,
can you talk about any of them?
I can, but I'm gonna talk about this first. The magazine came about because I just like satire. I liked reading Mad magazine. I liked reading the McSweeney's website.
Mm-hmm.
I liked going over to the National Lampoon side of things and seeing how they would even do advertisements. And I was just inspired during the pandemic, 2020.
You want some water?
No.
Okay.
Thank you. I felt inspired enough to just try to write something. So during the dark ages of the lockdown, I wrote 75 pages of the first issue for the intermittent Titter magazine. That's the full name, but I just shortened it to TiTmag because it's just funnier that way. And it was met with a lot of positive response. And to this day, I have not yet been able to recapture that lightning in a bottle, because now I'm worried about so many other aspects that obviously the other publications, you got your Reductress, you got the Onion, you've got Hard Drive, you got the Hard Times, the Nordly. Barstool, they're funny, but they're they're real news, I would say. This is all in the realm of satire.
Satire, okay.
So I think what I'm saying is that I've got a lot more bells and whistles that I'm worried about supplemental content, such as live podcasts and webisodes of sorts, reels to put in place of pictures, because the pictures won't get as much interaction or engagement as reels do on Instagram and TikTok, respectively. Other things such as, do I want to go ahead and make this print? Do I want to make this a PDF? Do I even want to make it anything outside of social media at all? Is it worth having a website? And I don't really have all the answers for that, but all I can say is that this is something that I'm putting a lot of labor and love into, and for as long as it's taking to get that same lightning in a bottle to be consistent for hopefully a monthly basis, it's hard. It's very hard, but I know I'm getting close to it. I can just taste it. I need to see enough failure within myself to get annoyed enough and be like, you know what? Fuck everything else. I'm releasing a good one right now, and it's gonna happen. So that's a roundabout way of saying I'm Terry Gilliam, and this is the Legend of Don Quixote. It may be stuck in development hell, but still being developed.
Have you, since the first one you made, have you made a second one?
I did, but here's the problem. I didn't dedicate enough time to it because I had my day job right after the first one came out. So the first one came out August 2020. August 31st of that year, my birthday, I start my day job because the pandemic happened. I was fired from a surveillance job. I needed money, so I've been doing that. And as the months would pass, the magazine just kind of gets shorter into the point where it was just the cover image, which is of usually different figures. In this case, for December, my dog, my dog Frosty, who had passed away in 2021. So I cared about him a lot. I was in Florida, and I just decided to do a lot of designs in the form of a breast, because it has to have something to do with tits. So the breast is the cover, but it's not a real picture of a breast. It's a drawing over someone's real picture of a breast, an ex-girlfriend of mine who I won't mention. But, you know, it was just Frosty's face all over, and then it would be in the form of it. You could go to TiTmag.com, find it over there. You'll see it at the website. But this is motivating me in the sense that not only will this be out soon, but it will mean that I have to have something more than a little logo at the corner here to show for it. Maybe I'll get back to starting the consistent satires tonight. I just have so many worries about how to get people to go on the website and to interact and engage.
Well, the hard part is just getting people to go there. But once people find it, then that's the easy part. I mean, like, you just gotta always be, promoting it. Like, I'm always just telling people, it's like, oh, check out my podcast. Yeah. I send people links to my podcast. The one thing I need to start doing is I should have is just get like a card and put the QR code on it, so people just need to scan the QR code and boom, takes you to the website.
It's quick. It's easy. Yeah, I might end up doing that. That's not bad. I do hear you have to. As early as today, you believe it or not, I have another show I'm promoting here. It's not for TiTmag. It's actually for this thing I run with Callie Bautista, a really friendly sort of folk. She and I just did a show at Flashback this past weekend. It went great. Now we're doing this show at her comedy house. It's a jacuzzi comedy show, and basically what it is that we're just going to be having comics perform in a jacuzzi.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Who's on the lineup?
We have Skylar. I never know how to pronounce his name, but he's a very fun guy. He's friends with the folks over there at Third Wheel. He's the headliner. Maddie Mays, who has performed at the Laugh Factory. We have Chris Diaz, who I've been seeing around the scene more often. He's a very funny and kind fella. We have Ryan the Cable Viewer. I think I've known him since before the pandemic. He's always been a nice guy. And Maddie P, who I know is a big wig over there at the Third Wheel. Again, I don't know him personally, but he apologized for mispronouncing my last name, which is very often a thing that happens. So
it's Archila, right?
Well, you pronounced it right. Thank you. But most people say Archuleta. And that was Maddie's issue that he made, but we resolved it, and he's a nice
people get names wrong all the time.
I don't like that they do that. I wish it was punishable by martial law or something. Like I wish people would go to jail for messing up my name.
You know what you should do? You should make a thing like if you say my name wrong, you get to slap them. Just one good hands behind the back. Just
I don't know if that would work out well for me. Enough controversy as is.
You controversy?
Yes.
In what?
I don't know. I'm likely someone that isn't the most esteemed, but I don't want to let my ego take over and be like, oh, I am absolutely 100% the best at being the worst. Like I think I'm a pretty decent person. I'm very conscious of things. I'm even working hard not to stagger or stumble over my words. I'm failing hard as well at that, but still I care enough
to try
about these things. So I'm good on paper. I'm not so great in person, but I am working with my therapist and with a support group I go to that helps me realize how to just be not necessarily authentic, but be relaxed, because that's even higher than authenticity. Like just being relaxed is therefore being yourself. Being authentic is like almost being real without it being real. That's what I feel. So I felt like that about when they would have those copies of the Declaration of Independence over there at the gift shops in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, I've never been to a gift shop in Washington, D.C. But I know that's a thing. Right?
Yeah.
And just think about the concept of that. You're talking about the blueprint for what America was legally going to be by our founding forefathers or whatever. And now you're going to sell a replica of that to a 12-year-old that's kind of interested in history, but they're more interested in the history of politics in Uzbekistan or Botswana or Vietnam or whatever. Like, they don't want to know more about what they had to be tested for. That doesn't make any sense. So I feel as if I'm sometimes like that, where I'm authentic, but I'm not being real because I'm not being relaxed. So I'm being like a hyper, Pee Wee Herman meets Gilbert Gottfried type of authentic.
I can see that's a good analogy for you.
It's a good analogy, but it's not what I want to be forever. I want to be able to talk like this and be funny on stage, and sometimes I have to... You ever have that happen where you're on stage and you just end up using a whole different voice or whatever? That's just a replica of yours?
A little bit. I think so, because when I go on stage, I have my whole personality, my whole thing. I'm loud, I'm rambunctious.
Yeah.
So I guess you can't... I've been told I have a black accent. Like, I don't even try to have one, but I'm just like, okay, whatever.
It comes across. You know, it's public speaking. It's a totally different animal than just conversational.
I had a friend of mine's, we were hanging out, and then one of my other friends who had seen her go up, she was like, why does that person always use her, her sex phone voice?
She uses a sex phone voice.
Yeah, because she talks like, she talks normal, blah, 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 but then when she gets on stage, she said, my friend said that she sounded like she's a phone sex operator. You know what I mean? She goes like, oh yeah, that's how. She like deeper and a little bit longer.
I don't know. It could be accidental. It could be a conscious choice. For me, I think I am trying to run away from the reality that I am not going to be in my 20s forever. I'm 29 right now. Again, on any given Saturday, by the time you may watch this, or sooner, I may be losing my mind over the notion that I'll be 30 soon, and then 40 is right around the corner, then 50, then 60, then 70, then 80, and 90.
What's wrong with aging?
I don't know if I'm going to be funnier or if I'm going to be more boring when I'm aging, you know, and I think when I'm on stage and my voice kind of fluctuates from this to, yeah, you know, I'm just a Colombian, like it just sounds almost prepubescent, and I don't necessarily need to be, I never needed to do that, but I think I've been trying harder to do that as I've grown older, because I'm starting to realize,
you want to sound young?
I'm aging. I want to be in denial. I want to stay in denial and be in a mode of mind where I think, well, tomorrow's always around the corner, and I can take things for granted, and you know, I don't need to quote unquote make it, as many comedians both in public and behind closed doors will actually say. There are many out there that do that, me included, me especially. The idea of making it, I guess, enough to find a consistency or your own idea of success. I'm always nervous about that. I don't know if I want to know that will happen, because then all the responsibilities I feared about having will suddenly be mine. But that's the only way one could really find their own success, if they get over the fear they have of...
The fear of success?
The fear of responsibility in success.
But that's part of it, right? Because... No. With success comes more opportunities. With more opportunities comes more duties. With more duties comes more, you know, things you have to take care of. You know what I mean? So there's just more stuff when you quote unquote make it that you got to do. Versus if you never make it, you ain't got to do shit. You know what I mean? All you got to do is just bitch about, you know, like Uncle Rico. I can throw a football over the moon, but you didn't try. You're not playing for the Denver Broncos.
Heard. Yeah, it's one of those conscious little worries I have.
We all have that fear of success because, you know, it just means we have to do more.
Yeah, I think I saw somebody post on their Instagram story about how you can't take tomorrow for granted, because you don't know if tomorrow is actually going to... I mean, take it for granted in the sense of, I shouldn't be so hard on myself, tomorrow's another opportunity, but still be enough hard of yourself to say, I gotta... be on top of this even more so.
On top of your game.
On top of my game, yeah. Case in point, it's so infinitesimally unimportant, but this whole thing with the 2 flyers here, I'm going to be handing these out when I go to my open mic that I'm helping run with the people at Laugh Your Truth Comedy over there.
Who's that at?
Well, it's an entity, so it's just a comedy brand. They perform... They throw stuff all over town, from the Improv to the Ice House.
Yeah, because I've seen flyers for them on Instagram.
Yeah. Right now, They are currently operating a weekly Monday mic
Okay.
for comics to develop their material and have it be a bit stronger with the help of feedback at the Flashback. But this is the Flashback off of Oxnard Street.
Yes.
So it's in Van Nuys. Most people confuse it for where it used to be, which is it's not at the Melrose location anymore. So anytime I tell you about a show, stop going there, please.
It's already gone, bitches.
Lost a lot of bringers because of it. No, I'm joking about that. But it is important, I think, to be interested in that idea of success and what it means to you. And slowly but surely, I'm starting to come around and accept it, be grateful for it. It's just, as I said before, this is LA. Everybody wears 100 different hats. I'm especially spinning multiple plates at a time. And however much I'm succeeding in comedy, I still feel like I'm failing in other aspects. Case in point, I'm supposed to be drawing a lot more than I am right now, and I'm not doing enough drawing because I'm busy doing comedy. When I'm not busy doing comedy, I'm busy at work. When I'm not busy at work, I'm busy falling asleep in my car. When I'm not busy falling asleep in my car, I'm busy jerking off in my bed and then falling asleep. It's just all this stuff. So I don't think I'm ready to turn 30 because I don't think I've earned the right to live this long.
You feel like you gotta go to war or some shit?
Not even that I have to go to war, just like, am I responsible enough to carry on the mantle that is 30? And the answer is, who gives a fuck? It's going to happen to you anyway.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it. Time is quickly declining.
I think once you hit 50, you're going to be like, what the fuck was I so worried about?
No, I'll still be worried about 50. I'll be worried about 60, about pension plans, if I can even
afford to retire.
Afford that. I mean,
what is
I don't ever want to retire, to be honest.
When you think of your form of making it, because we all have our different forms of making it, what is your idea of making it? Is it to have the TiTmag?
I think TiTmag would be something that I'm never going to let go. So once it gets really chugging along, I've got a consistent post schedule, and perhaps I have some people helping me out with social medias, and I have a monthly show and video content coming out from that. The second thing would be just getting my ass on the road, touring. I am lucky enough to know friends in various places, and they're booking me for shows, so I feel excited about that. I have a spot I'm doing in Arizona next month. Nice. So I'm really excited for that. I have, like you said, done spots in New York, but it's not enough for it to be a couple months and then nothing, a couple months and then nothing. I would hope that for me, my version of making it is being able to survive off of whatever my main way of making money is that doesn't have to be a day job. In this case, besides stand-up, it's also the magazine. It's also wanting to produce shows. So besides performing on shows, producing shows, which is a totally different animal. Of course, hosting, it's its own species. And then commercials. I'm trying not to necessarily book commercials, but to create commercials. Me and my friend Travis, we've been slowly but surely surveying the local mom and pop scene of Los Angeles, and we're interested with a couple of clients to make commercials for them and get money back, because that's important. I think there's not enough restaurants, not enough businesses that are of a smaller quality of financial backing. Maybe they're a lot more of a smaller organization. They're a little more regional than your, so to speak, Charles Schwab or CVS, McDonald's or Rally's, what have you, and they need some help with commercials or promotion or marketing and whatnot. So I'd rather quit my job and go into that full time than to stay at my job for another year, because I know for sure it's coming, my desire to leave my current day job.
I mean, don't all comics have a desire to leave their day job?
But yeah, this is something proactive, because to be honest,
yes,
I'm turning 30, Blaize. Maybe that's not so old to you.
I'm 31, bro.
I know. You're on the other side of it, but for me, it's just
making me feel shitty.
No. I mean, you've got your setup, you've got your furnished house, you've got an animal that actually you love and you take care of, which I've always envied people that could bring their dogs here, because my dog lived and died in Florida. And Yeah, I miss him every day, but he had a happy life. It's just I wish he knew that how much bigger life was, and maybe that's also offensive to say. Maybe he did have a big understanding of what life was. I just couldn't see it from his perspective because he was always sunbathing in our backyard in Orlando.
That's pretty chill for a dog. You know, dogs love that. I like it because during the summertime, I open the door over here and the sun comes right here in the middle of the day, and she'll just be there on our back, just like.
It's pleasant. It's nice.
Ain't gonna lie. There's nothing like more comforting than seeing a dog sunbathe. They just look so comfortable.
They're very comfortable. They're very peaceful at that point. Mm-hmm. So, again, what I was saying before, I think just as long as I keep challenging myself to keep all this plates spinning,
you're doing a lot of shit right now,
intact, without breaking or anything. I think that to me is not making it, but on the road to making it, on the way to making it. So
you want to be booked up, but you don't want tour. I mean, go for like 3-4 months.
I don't know if I need a tour. I just need to be able to every weekend. Hey, I'm at this place. Hey, I'm at that place, and then fly back to LA or Austin, Chicago, wherever I choose to be living by then.
Get those flyer miles.
Exactly. I'm such an idiot. I should have printed this landscape, and I printed it portrait, so it came out. It came out better in this case because the less ink was used.
Yeah,
but it's just, I should have just done it horizontally so it would fit.
Did you print it at home?
I printed it at work.
I
printed it right as my job was closing up and everything. So
and everyone was gone.
Yeah, that's another thing. I think if I am to be serious about the magazine, I've also got to figure out such small things like printing. I have a friend of mine, Bum Dog, who I've been in touch with before, and I've been so busy between stuff for my career, stuff for my day job, stuff for my mental health, which up until recently wasn't a lot, and then intrapersonal relationships that I'm better off not having engaged or enabled. And he and I have talked a bit about it, and he has some suggestions for printing, and I don't think I took it seriously enough when he said it, and now just off of having to print out these flyers and seeing how much toner it uses just for 20 reams. I'm trying to, when I pause, I'm trying to stop myself from saying but I'm also trying to find the word that sounds right. I guess 20 sheets of paper would be the best thing to say, because I was about to say 20 reams, and then that makes it sound a little more sexual, like, oh, I'm reaming the printer, Hewlett Packard.
Oh yeah, ream that printer, baby, ream it.
Exactly.
Okay.
But
It's so much harder to sell print, though. I mean, even the LA Times is suffering. New York Post.
I agree. I think I have an idea of how I want to go about it, and it's not as large scale as anyone would think about it as. But if nothing else, it's most likely just going to look like I print out a copy of for myself every time and just have that be my own. And if people want to look at it in person, well, then I'll bring it with me everywhere. But
I mean, you could try and sell them at your shows.
That's a great point. I did also, again, need to have it for a hefty price to where it doesn't totally make sense for me to...
$14.99? $50?
Something like that. This is all very internal talk that I don't mind sharing with you, because I don't feel like I'm ready for all the responsibility.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like anybody else is. I don't know anybody else that's wanting to do this to the scale of which I'm doing it, and I feel rather proud of it. And it's very strange I say that, because I'm not very proud of anything I do. The podcast, very briefly, I was going to mention one of them is Caldo de Risa. It's with my friend Brian TV. We shoot it out of Will's House Productions, and it's just him and I talking about Colombian culture, because we're both Colombian and we both have something of a paradigm shift, a fish out of water experience being Colombian, because our families are very Latino and we're not. So it's something where we're trying to reconnect with our roots, and the goal with that eventually would be one, to throw a nice Christmas show, the Christmas celebration not being too far off from what I was telling you about with hummus, because Colombians celebrate this holiday called Novena. And this girl that I was crushing on back at the time, she would come to our novena, and she was just a family friend, but she was very, very attractive and all that. So
she still got her IG?
Do I still have what?
You got her IG?
I do, but we don't really converse. We don't really talk anymore. And
she's single?
She's got somebody. I'm happy for her, and I'm happy that I didn't do anything because the fact is that my family kind of sees her like one of their own, So
hey, you know what?
For me to do that would not only be awkward for my family, it would be playing into the whole stereotype, like Floridians do incest or whatever. And that's not
even. Was she your cousin? Is she actually related to you?
She's not my cousin, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But she's a family friend of ours.
That's not wrong though. That's not nothing wrong.
It's not wrong, but
it's not weird.
It's just I think long term it was better that I didn't act up. Also, I was dating a woman at the same time as well, and she was just out over there in Boca Raton. So I think maybe I didn't want to feel the guilt from potentially cheating on her. Yeah.
Hey man, cheating is not that bad.
It's from my experience. I would not do it again. I've cheated in many other instances after that, and it's been nothing but disaster.
Also, I only cheated because I didn't get what I wanted. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
It was kind of more like just satisfying something that I didn't get, and so I think that's what it was for me when I cheated. Every time that I cheated.
Yeah.
But that's my perspective. That's my thing. You know what I mean?
That's your perspective, and you know what? If that's your truth, that's your truth. I believe that's why you cheated.
I mean, opportunity, man.
I just don't think I could cheat again because whenever I would cheat, it would make things a lot more difficult for both people involved, and nobody did. If you really love somebody, at least in my case, the last woman actually I was seeing consistently, she didn't deserve all the crap I gave her, And I still feel bad about it to this day. I'm not going to contact her. I'm going to give her space to heal and grow and all that, but that was definitely the last time I'm ever going to do any of the actions I did in that relationship.
That's good. That's called growth.
Yeah, it's growth, but it's also just like not letting myself get into another relationship. So
I'm just more surprised to hear that you're a ladies' man, that you cheated like that often. He's like, oh yeah, this.
It's a lot more pathetic than it sounds. I'm not proud of it at all, but I'm proud that I can recognize that was the lowest I will go, and it won't get that bad again.
Mm-hmm. And so so you're doing 2 podcasts?
Yeah, I'm doing that, and then I'm working on a separate one. There's a bunch of plans with different people, but the separate one is actually one that's helmed by my friend Travis. He and I, he's interested in showing me movies I've never seen before. So there's this movie called True Lies, for instance, with Arnold and Tia Carrera that was very interesting, and we sat down and drank beer and watched it. And that's it. That's the podcast, and we're cutting it together right now. So that's one.
And you didn't fall asleep.
Did I fall asleep?
And you didn't fall asleep.
Oh no, I was falling asleep a little bit during the film. So it's gonna happen no matter what. Sometimes if I sit still enough, if I hold my breath long enough, the apnea gets to me, and then the circulation cuts off to my head. So it's called Beer Reviews, and that
sounds cool.
He's very excited about it. So it's likely that it will be coming soon. We have a bigger podcast, he and I, come to think of it, that we've been working on for almost more than a year now. It's called Drunk Pilot Sobriety. You can see a trend. I'm very intoxicated by intoxications. It's when we take a sober panel of stand-up comedians, and they read a script that me and Travis wrote while we were straight up plastered, and the ideas sometimes are a little lacking, and then sometimes they're actually pretty good. And the table reads have always been very encouraging. But just as recently as this last spring, we've been very focused on making it happen for real. And it looks like we're approaching the finish line because we're just now in the final stages of post-production.
No wonder you're fucking tired, man. You're fucking doing 50 things every day.
Yeah.
Fucking doing this, doing that, your magazine.
And then on top of that, it's just a bunch of guilt, I feel. Like, I was thinking about that as I was on my way over here, because there's a buddy of mine, I'm not going to say his name, but whenever I see him, he's the nicest guy. He's always very kind, very genuine, and he knows I draw. And he says to me one day, "Hey, Danny, how would you like to make a cartoon for me?" I'm like, "Yeah, that'd be great." And he says, "Here, it's $100. And I haven't made a cartoon for him, and I feel really bad. So I'm probably going to reach out to him, actually. Is it rude to go on my phone? I'm gonna reach out to him right now.
Reach out to him right now. You're having a moment. You're having a moment right now. I'll let you just.
I'm not gonna call him, but I'm gonna say, hey, let's meet because I'm feeling enough guilt about this, and in fact, I'm not even gonna tell him that I have the time. I'm going to make the time, but I'm going to tell my friend, hey, I'm free. When do you want to meet to talk about A, B, and C? Mm-hmm. And that's it.
There you go.
Yeah.
How long ago did he give you the money?
Before pandemic.
Fuck.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, man, is that, like, nobody in this town can, like, touch me when it comes to, like, crap. Like, I shit on myself more than anybody. Maybe that's why I like eating ass. I don't know, but I don't. But, you know, it's one of those things where accountability, I'm realizing more and more, that's the thing I value beyond anything else in this world. I value accountability. Maybe the rest of the world doesn't. Maybe they have problems with hearing too much of the truth. I know I certainly have a short temper when it comes to hearing critique from outside sources, and I need to be better about that because it could endanger people, I think. But I know for a fact that if I'm not accountable now, I'm not going to be very accountable by the time I hit 31. You know.
You still got 2 years.
I'm counting.
Hopefully. I just think that's an interesting thing to think about. Like, I know it is easy to be so, like, negative in yourself. Like, for me, for instance, like, I have a difficult time, like, when I do nothing and I'm just sitting at home and I'm just like, hey, I should be doing something right now. Why am I not doing something right now? And so I'm frantically going through, like, my calendar and making sure that I went through my texts and just, like, I'm always suspicious when I have free time. Because it's just hard, man. It's hard because those little demons in your mind are always at work trying to hold you back.
Yeah. It's not great that we have those voices in our heads, but at the same time,
it does help drive.
They're there for a reason because you really do need to be your own cheerleader, your own coach, your own bus driver. It's a dog-eat-dog world out here. Not everybody is as lucky as, or I wouldn't say lucky, but not everybody is in the position, such as you are, for instance, in the sense that you have your people to rely on in various projects. With our own little, not our own little, it's growing actually at a rapid rate. This Dungeons and Dragons group we have, you and Russell have been doing quite the job being commissioners for that, and I can only imagine how much responsibility that takes.
Not much. It's the hardest part, honestly, for me, is just making sure everyone shows up on time.
Right.
Other than that, I just say fuck it. Let's have fun with it. Because I'm very like, fuck it. Let's see how it goes. I'm like, you know that I was that one. Anchor. He's like, fuck it, we'll do it live.
Yeah, that was Bill O'Reilly.
Alright, that's who it was. That was So that's that's kind of my motion whenever, like, even when I go on stage, I was like, fuck it, we're doing it live. Yeah. And you know, mistakes are gonna happen here and there.
That sounds comforting to be able to, like, go about it with such freedom of expression and nonchalance as far as what evil may come, because you don't know if anything bad's going to happen. Maybe it'll all go great, so why be negative? That'll only waste time.
Well, like, to your point, you know, about, like, dying and getting old, one of my sayings I always tell people is, like, you know, whenever someone says something or they want to do something, like, oh, let's go skiing, or someone says, what's the worst that could happen? I would say, we could die.
Yeah.
Other than that, it was a good time. You know, you lost a limb. At least it's a funny story. That's what my mentality is. It's like, there's only so much you can control, and the only thing that you really can control is how you react to certain things. And so my reaction to a lot of things is just, all right, let's see how it goes. Let's just go with the flow. This bitch.
I do worry. I do freak out about the concept of being able to control my reaction, because I can control my reaction when I do something wrong. But it's harder for me to control my reaction when somebody else finds something that I did wrong. And I'm always very weak and unsupportive of myself whenever it comes to that, to the point where I'll be something of an avoidant type of personality. I will not necessarily ghost, but I will shelter myself away from the most minor direct messages about whatever I need to step up on. So
she doesn't like being critiqued.
Yeah, not even critiquing, even if it's just like contacting me to say, hey, where's this and that, because I design flyers as well. I do a bit of flyer design. I've designed both of these, but sometimes I do it for money. And sometimes people are a little upset about it. There's one time, I'm not going to say his name again because he's actually a good friend and he's really kind.
So he's already said his name once.
No, you haven't, but I haven't. But he's a kind dude. And one time I was designing a flyer for his show. He asked a small request, and because I didn't get it to him in time, he asked at one point, "Do you hate me? Is this because of A, B, and C?" And I said, "No, dude, I've just been busy. Here's the flyer," and all that.
So literally fucking took you 5 minutes.
Right. That's what I meant to say. I don't know if I said that verbatim, but the whole thing is that, yeah, I think accountability is just really something that especially more men, women are pretty good about it, but men, I feel like, as cocky as we can be on stage, we have to have a level of humility when we approach things as a business. Because now I'm trying to handle things as far as being a comedian, being artistic in other areas, as far as writing and drawing and doing this shit. TiTmag, I have a lot of respect for it. It's always going to be my baby. And then producing and hosting shows, which is a whole different can of worms. I have a lot more respect, having done it more consistently over the past couple of years than I did before, for people who do that regularly, people who produce shows regularly and produce mics regularly.
Yeah.
Like it's very difficult to upkeep, but once you get on a real good current of it, once you're surfing the wave very expert like, it's fun.
I feel like your wave is like riding on like rocks, and it's just like you're half asleep, just like going through.
Sure, yeah. It's at nighttime as well.
It's at night, yeah. The sharks are flying over your head, but you're just sitting there chill as fuck.
I just look like a banana in pajamas to them. That's all it is.
Like chill on the chill.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how else to talk about myself except for that. I just got to be straightforward and say, like everybody else, I've got a long way to go to actually feel like I'm good,
I feel like I understand how you get pussy now. You just like broed to these girls.
I don't get pussy. I haven't been laid in months, and I'm starting to be okay with that. I'm at that level of grief to where I'm accepting it. I'm just accepting that.
You don't feel like you have time for it? You just don't want to
I try putting myself out there. I wouldn't quite necessarily know the charismatic cheat code to have that happen with the women I was talking to. Then I would go out with the wrong women. Then the women that I would go out with, we would have something of a spark, but I kind of would fear a commitment. So then I would make up an excuse, or rather fill up my schedule to be so busy with comedy and with things behind the scenes to where I would say to them, I'm sorry, I'm not going to go to that bar. I'm a little busy. In one case in particular, I'm going to go ahead and do it right now. I'm going to go ahead and hit up this woman and say, "Hey, I hope you're okay. Mind if I call you soon?" And just tell her straight up, I'm not ready for a relationship, but I'm happy to be a friend, because I think she's kind of looking for one, and I'm not,
See, look how emotionally, like, mature you are. Like, I am a toxic-ass motherfucker. Like, I can't be, like, nice.
But it's important that you admit to it. That's good. It's just,
like, I know
you're improving upon yourself as well, and that's what matters the most.
Trying,
as
but
long
not
as you improve.
Oh, you have a show tonight, right?
I have a mic, so I run an open mic with Megan Sousa and our friend Avisa. I don't know her last name.
What time is that, Mike?
That's at 8:30 on Mondays. It's an open mic over there at the Flashback. I have the flyer right here. I'll go ahead and tell you what it is. 13653 Oxnard Street, Van Nuys, 8 p.m. to 10:45. Laugh Your Truth. It's a $5 mic, but they give feedback at the end, and that's what I do. I help them out with that.
Some people don't take criticism well. A lot of folks, especially here in comics.
I'm one of those people. I don't take criticism at all. I'm very bad at it.
Yeah, I actually prefer. I like when people tell me when they give me criticism, because it gives me an idea of a mindset of what other people are thinking. You know what I mean? Kind of like, okay, well, maybe that's not, like, some people come up and they'll give me like, oh, I thought you were going to say this, or, I thought this would be funnier. I'm like, okay. I had one person, she, a friend of ours who wasn't a comic critiqued them, and then when we left, they said, that motherfucker's not even a comic. What the fuck is he even saying? Like, they literally almost blew a fucking gasket in their head because they're so pissed because that non-comic critique them. And I was like,
Yeah, I'm sorry, I heard maybe a 15% of that. I'm not. That's what I'm saying, Blaize, is that you're giving me all these props and everything, but when I was in my first couple of years of stand-up, I genuinely was a bit of an asshole, and I think to a degree I still am. There are people out there that would say, Danny's got a lot of problems. He's, not really funny. He keeps doing the same mistakes. Blah blah blah. And to those people, I say I agree with you, but I'm not gonna stop. So. Work on your own shit, because I'm gonna figure this out myself, But I want to take critique better. It's just it's hard when you are a comic, because we're also very emotional. A lot of the stuff we're talking about is sometimes the best stuff is from real life. I'm trying to break this in private. I haven't done it as much on stage as I would have liked to, but in private there's this very controversial joke. I'm not even going to say it here, but it's rather controversial, but it's real life. It's about me, and I'm trying to figure out how to break it on stage. And I'm worried that if I bring it to something like tonight, like a feedback mic, where it's not ready for even being heard by a captive audience of comedians, that they're just going to be, the first line is going to be, just don't do that joke. Because I've heard that before. I've heard that about various materials that I talk about, various stand-up that I said, don't do that joke. And either they don't want me to do it because it sounds creepy, or because it sounds like it's hack. But if I'm able to come up with it and it's able to make me laugh, well, then I don't think it's that bad. I think there's some redeeming qualities. And now if it's being said, oh, don't ever do that joke, that's an indication to me that I have to rewrite it and restructure it, maybe do a page 1 rewrite on it before I could actually.
Like, that isn't even critical. It's just a blind no.
Well, I mean, then the problem's with me. Then I'm problematic in the sense that I am taking things too literally. Maybe I have such a insecurity complex about it, to where whenever somebody says that, I'm like, oh my god, they hate me. And that I've been talking to my therapist about this. That's just catastrophizing. That's a form of magical thinking that I don't need to be doing, because nobody is ever that important to hate.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm actually hated by anybody. I just think maybe comics in their time to wait to hit the stage get annoyed that in the interim they have to
listen to you,
witness me.
Well, I want you to know I do hate you, so you don't have to think about it.
Well, I appreciate that. A lot more people should be that honest, me included. But I don't know. I wish I could handle feedback better, and I think I'm getting to a place where I can. It's just I also don't want to feel guilt, because I'm already, like I said, offering the worst feedback about myself anyway. So. And on top of that, I got to get rid of guilt. I got to get rid of shame. I got to get rid of that from my personality. I don't need to be talking down on myself. There's a version of this interview where it could sound like, hey, Danny sounds like a really impressive guy, not this fucking idiot fucktard that doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. But I find that I'm more comfortable with myself if I talk plainly like this versus if I just list all my successes and disregard every one of my shortcomings. There are some shortcomings I'm not mentioning on right now, but that's probably because I didn't, screen it with you beforehand. So because of that,
that's fine.
I wouldn't want to go ahead and be like saying like, oh, I did this thing, and so
the bleep was a cocaine.
I'm just learning it's important to also know a balance of not oversharing, because that's a form of ego as well. Thinking that your oversharing could really drive the conversation and make you an interesting person, and I'm trying really hard not to do that.
I actually got in trouble for oversharing.
Did you? What was the scenario? If you don't mind oversharing that.
I'm oversharing. It's all right. It's funny. I'm mad at myself for saying, because, all right, so there's these two females I'm friends with, right? Yeah. One of the females I'm hooking up with, the other female I'm not hooking up with, but we hang out all the time, right? We're just friends. And so we're just talking, and I was telling her, the second friend, the one I'm just friends with, I was like, oh, I shouldn't tell you this bit because you know my other friend, and this friend, she goes, oh no, I'm more friends with you than I am with her. So I'm like, okay, cool, I can tell you. Told her. 2 days later, those two girls are hanging out. Bitch sells me out and tells the first chick about all my shit. And I was like, what the fuck? I thought you were gonna just spread that shit around.
Right.
And it was just about me fucking other bitches behind her back. And I was just like, that's which one was. It was just kind of. We weren't together, but she told me she just wanted to know when I was fucking other people. And I was just like,
They have that tendency to just want to know even the worst details if it means, you're there's nothing to hide.
Yeah.
Our spouses, that's what I say. Spouses, not women, because I think guys have this tendency as well. I actually knew a dude my friend Chris, he was straight for a long time, and then he went gay because he didn't know how to really enjoy women, because he just hated so many things that they would do whenever he was in a relationship with them. Come to find out, dudes do the same thing. So
that's interesting.
It's inescapable, I think.
So it's more just that's interesting. So he's not gay, but he's bi?
Oh no, I think he's full gay right now.
He's full gay now?
Sure, yeah.
He's full gay. He's full on gay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
But yeah, I think all that said, I think about it, and I think about like why I can't just like go ahead and be like, I can't be authentic. I have to be relaxed for people to know that I trust them, because otherwise it's just ingenuous. And to that degree, I will take some feedback in consideration. Like, there's this bit, it's not even based on a true story or anything. It's just like a dumb thought I had in my mind, because crocodiles, right? And the only thing creepier than predators of the animal kingdom is predators of the human kingdom. So, I had this bit where I tried to make an analogy between crocodiles and alligators and child molesters and sexual offenders and all that.
Okay.
And somebody told me that it just wasn't a good idea to do that joke. And I get into a lot of disagreements with him. I don't know if we're really as good of friends as people think we are, but I did kind of take that into account, and ever since then I've decided, for the time being, I'm just going to retire that joke until it's more funny than creepy. Because if it's more creepy than funny, then people are going to say, hey, that's the alligator pedophile comic, It's, I don't want to be known as that either, and that's a stupid insecurity to have anyway, But
I've been called the Clitty comic.
The Clitty that's not so bad.
It's not too bad. He's like, oh, you're the one with the Clitty comic, and I was like, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, what's the worst that could happen out of that? People just assume you have a clit instead of a dick, Like, that's not.
Yeah.
It's okay,
I mean, I'm pretty sure you heard my clit jokes before.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is what it is, but I just think, we get so wrapped up in our own insecurities that we just need to move on and just like say fuck it.
I know.
Because I've always been called weird my whole life.
Yeah?
Yeah, and so I kind of just always embraced being that weird guy, you know what I mean? Or being that guy that always says the wrong thing, kind of.
That's good. That's good. You kind of made it into your own superpower almost.
Got to, because in high school, they would call me, oh, you're Dirty Sanchez. Oh, you're Dirty Sanchez trying to insult me. And I'd be like, yeah. And then I'll put my finger above my nose and go.
Oh, okay. I guess to flick it.
Yeah. Well, because it's a dirt. Do you know what Dirty Sanchez is?
I don't.
It's when you get shit and you put a shit mustache. Yeah.
People do that?
So people eat ass, my friend. There's shit play.
Hold on. So people take poop onto their finger and then they rub it under, like, their on their upper lip, or where?
Upper lip. It's just right there. It's upper lip.
But their own upper lip?
Yeah. While
they're eating ass?
I don't know. It's just something that I've known for years. That's what the Dirty Sanchez is.
Hey, yo, that's a little weird. I never heard of that. Like, I know that could be a joke or whatever, but like, action, that's so funny.
No, it's an actual thing.
I'm gonna be thinking about this for the rest of the day. Why is that a thing? Wow.
You're gonna Google it.
I'm gonna get into a relationship just to do that, just to take her butthole mucus and wear it as a handlebar.
Butthole mucus? I don't even think you call it butthole mucus.
Well, that's what I call it.
I wouldn't call it butthole mucus, because mucus is a different types of consistency.
Her rectum phlegm.
Rectum phlegm? Oh, that's cute, but still.
It is. Yeah. I don't know. That's so funny. Well, I mean, that's getting back to that. That's so interesting that you're able to own up to it. I was at Acceidental Chaos the other night, and compared to when I was at Third Wheel getting roasted my ass off at a certain performance where it was encouraged to be roasted and all that by the crowd, at Acceidental Chaos, when I was roasted, I try to be a bit more quick about how, because the whole thing of like, I'm bubblegum, you're glue, what bounces off me sticks to you or whatever, right? So bubblegum and point. I went to the third wheel mic that they had about crowd work, and everybody just kept roasting each other when I was on stage. It was weird because I was like prepared to be roasted, but nobody either knew enough about me or just didn't want to have anything to do with me to where they just didn't roast me. So it was just silent the whole time. Which is counterintuitive for, a crowd work mic, like you're supposed to, or I don't know, it was something like that. It was a heckle mic, something along the lines of that, but nobody wanted to heckle me. So that's fine, that's fair. Yesterday night, I'm hanging out with California Red and company over there at Lil Nymphos Chaos, or is it Nymphos Chaos? I don't know.
Chaos.
I guess it's a weird way. Should her name be Nymphos Chaos then? Is that the rhyming scheme? I don't know.
It's Nympho. His name's Nympho.
Her name.
Oh, it was Little Nympho?
Little Nympho, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and I was actually roasting California and Russell just a couple weeks ago at the last TiTmag show for February. We were just hanging out in a parking lot and just roasting each other to high heavens. And yesterday I did the same thing, and the audience would be like laughing whenever California Red would have roasted me. But then I kind of agree with them, and I say the yes and approach to, yeah, I do this and another thing, like that sort of whatever.
Well, I caught the 8 Mile, like, remember, did you ever see the movie 8 Mile with Eminem?
Sure, yeah.
So remember the final battle where he's like, I do got a friend named Cheddar Bob that shoots himself in the leg.
Exactly. So it's taking what somebody may perceive as your weakness and making it into your strength, and that's something I'm slowly but certainly getting better at. It's just, it takes a bit of forgiveness in the mind. You know?
One of the other questions I always love asking is, there's 2 types of ways of bombing. Either A, you stick to your material, or B, I feel like you face the crowd and he's like, this sucks, doesn't it? And you admit it. Which style do you feel like you tend to do more of?
Both. I'm sure I do both. I'm struggling to, but I'm getting into the habit of listening back to my sets, even the bombs. And what I can tell you is that there will be moments where I just do the same material and it doesn't land. Or there'll be times where I'll straight up say, hey, come on, you guys could, it's all right, it's okay. I'm not that bad. I don't know, just like kind of be their buddy about it, almost like console them as if they're in pain, as if I'm sorry that my jokes were so terrible that night. I don't know, you caught me at a very unusual time in my life, Blaize. I'm in this moment where it's like, if I'm not going to put everything I can into comedy, I might as well ship out, because it's not worth, like, saying you're going to do something and then never do it. And I've been learning that the very hard way for so many years now. It makes me sick to my stomach more than doing a little sculpture of Scooby-Doo out of this gum.
I thought it was a dragon, but I guess...
It started off as an alligator. We got to talking
about it. You were very artistic.
Do you mean the other word?
Both. Yeah. Don't worry, I have autism myself. I have Asperger's.
I got tested for ADD, but then I tested for it the next year, and I got tested negative because I was just pissed off that a machine told me you have attention deficit. So I thought about it really hard the next time I went, and I just made a point of beating the game.
I love how petty you fucking are. You know what? Petty. You're never gonna make it in this town. You're gonna be a shitty comic for the rest of your life. Then you go off and fucking be Dave Chappelle, motherfucker. You know what I think I need to do? I think I need to wake up every morning, text you, be like, you're a fucking piece of shit and you're worthless. I think that'll make you feel better. You're like, no, I'm gonna prove you wrong.
I've been hearing opposite advice, actually. I will say I've heard from a very nice guy, actually. He runs Flashback. I guess Flashback is a place where I like working out. You were asking me before. That's still a place I like working out. Dante Chang said to me the other night, you got to tell yourself very briefly, at least before your set, if only for those 5, 10, 15 minutes you're performing, I'm the best comic in the world. I gotta do that. And I did that last night at Chaos, and I don't know if I did amazing, but I definitely did good enough. Like, people were remembering me. People said good job to me after the stage. The whole, like, you get 3 fist bumps of approval, that means you got 5 stars or whatever.
I never heard that term.
I think every comic has their imaginary, most won't admit to it, but every comic has their imaginary form of, like, this is an indication that I did well. Like, when somebody's like laughing on the floor crying, or when somebody follows you online, or for me when I get like at least a couple of fist bumps. I got like 8 fist bumps after my Spanish set last week.
He counted.
And I didn't, but it was that much. And the fact is that I had written a lot of that Spanish material that same day. So it was very barely prepared. And Pablo might be a little upset about hearing that, because I did say I had 10 minutes prepared. I still did 9 minutes and 30. I still did pretty okay as far as time goes. But yeah, I am very petty in the sense that I had a little bit of an issue trying to tear myself apart from looking for external validation. And I'm only as recently as this year, honestly, realizing that's not what matters. What matters is that I believe in myself.
Yeah.
Because I was, guess what, for the magazine, for that first issue, that essentially the holy grail, the Bible, the end-all be-all, the answer 42 to the universe. That first issue was just basically the proudest time I ever said anything about the magazine. I haven't been able to get that back, but I know I can. And I know I have to believe in myself like that, because nobody else will.
No.
Nobody else will. And
not even your own dad.
It's not... my dad does believe in me. He just believes in me in other aspects. And he's very kind, and he's actually very supportive and very loving. So I'm very grateful for him in my life. But, yeah, it's just... it's not so much faking it till you make it. It's more or less proving to yourself that you've come up with enough examples to illustrate that you're somewhat better than you were 360, in this case 6 days, because it's a leap year, 365, 66 days before, when you weren't. So if you could say, hey, I'm better this time this year than I was this time last year, then you're succeeding somehow.
Yeah.
And you're only failing, as many people say, when you stop. So I stopped for a little bit a couple years ago. Now I'm on it again, and I feel good.
Well, I mean, everyone stopped in 2020 for a bit.
It's not because of 2020. It was just, I just had my priorities in the wrong places, and I was getting upset at the wrong things and letting that devour my soul. Not what I was prioritizing, but my reactions to it. So
I like a both. Like, you guys are so in sync right there.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I get that.
She's a sweetie. What's her name?
Lucy.
Lucy.
Did you forget the bitch's name already? See, so I know he's a lady girl.
I love Lucy.
I
love Lucy.
She's not a good girl. She's a bad bitch.
Bad to the bone.
Yeah. Danny, it's getting a little late. I just want to thank you for coming on the show. Is there anything in particular you'd like us to promote? Any shows?
So I do the TiTmag Cum Rags, which is lovingly known as Comedians Unloading Mocking Riffs Ambitiously game show. I do that every last Monday at Accidental Chaos until I don't. And Jacuzzi Comedy is coming up this Saturday over at the address listed. You can go to my Instagram account and DM me if you don't know how to get to the Eventbrite, but it's at that address.
What's your Instagram?
My Instagram is Archila. That's on Instagram. My TikTok is Danny_Archila. My website is DannyArchila.com. And my attachment style is avoidant anxious. And the magazine, TiTmag, you can just go to TiTmag.com. This is inspiring me to drink a energy drink tonight and work on it in hopes that by the time anybody does look up this information, it's well prepared. But the magazine is at TiTmag.com.
You got a week.
Instagram is TitterMinutGazine on Instagram, and I have a YouTube channel for it as well. It's got no subscribers, but that's basically because we only got 2 interviews up there. So don't subscribe to it. Just if I'm gonna plug anything, that's what I'll unplug. Don't go to my TiTmag YouTube. But we've all got our things happening, and all I can say is that anything that I've done negative to the people that I used to love, I'm sorry. And I'm seeking therapy, I'm seeking anger management, and I'm seeking the help of a fun little app that's Duolingo for your emotions called Ahead. I won't say I'm sponsored by them, but I will beg that they sponsor me eventually.
Here's a testimonial.
Yeah. This is my.
I felt like we got a lot done in this one interview. You texted 2 people. You were going to clean your room on Saturday.
Oh yeah, that's right. Tune in for the live stream on Friday night of me cleaning my god awful studio apartment all night long. I'm going to figure it out.
That's great, man. I hope you have a clean apartment this weekend.
I appreciate your kindness and your patience with my otherwise artistic ways of speaking. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, no. But I, if you see me, say hello, and if you don't like me, tell me why.
Tell them why you don't like me.
I need more. I'm running out of things to be upset at myself about. You know, I need to do more than just pick gum out of my mouth and make it into different art pieces. Like, I need to improve.
That's actually pretty impressive, I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, thank you.
Alright, but thank you, Danny. Take care. Peace, y'all.